You have to tell us if there are illegal aliens in your database. If we're arresting someone, we are going to know if they're an illegal alien. So last week, I sent out 32 letters to mayors around the country, and I believe to 7 governors, telling them, you better comply or you're next. If they don't comply with this, Larry, we're going to work with our other agencies to cut off their federal funding. We are going to send in law enforcement, just like we did during the LA riots, just like we're doing here in Washington, D.C. And if they're not going to keep their citizens safe, Donald Trump will keep them safe. That's what this is all about, making America safe again. That was his only directive, and that's what we're doing.
They don't care that everyone knows all that's bullshit. They just don't care. Pam Bondi is now threatening multiple cities with invasions of more military states, also stripping your federal dollars. Sounds like an authoritarian to me. Can we, just curious, can we start calling them fascists yet? I mean, it doesn't matter if you call them that. They're just doing it anyway. But still, Pam Bondi is sending out 34 or 32 letters to other blue state mayors to make sure that they know we are the authoritarian regime. One of those mayors responded. It's Michelle Wu of Boston.
Boston received a letter from the Attorney General of the United States on official letterhead from the federal government threatening to prosecute city officials and withhold federal funds unless we cooperate with carrying out mass deportations. At a time when this federal administration is already causing so much fear and harm in our communities, these threats are serious and consequential. But our same communities have told me loud and clear that silence in the face of oppression is not an option. The U.S. Attorney General asked for a response by today. So here it is. Here is our response. Stop attacking our cities to hide your administration's failures. Unlike the Trump administration, Boston follows the law. And Boston will not back down from who we are and what we stand for.
That should be the response from just about every city that they're looking to now attack. I mean, we've seen some universities fold to his, mobster tactics. We've seen some law firms fold to his mobster tactics. And oddly, they've got screwed over too. The same story that we've heard before. Anybody that he's done any of these leanings on or dealings with, he screws them over anyway. It has nothing to do with actually getting to the bottom of what they call crime in these cities. They're just saying that. That's why, as we've seen the realistic facts behind what it is that's going on in these cities, they just say it and keep moving on. Michelle Wu wasn't even done. She had more to say.
To all the federal officials attacking communities that embody diversity, creativity, and moral clarity, we mayors said this in D.C. nearly 6 months ago, and I'll say it again today. You are wrong on the law, and you are wrong on safety. Most of all, you are wrong on cities. The cities that live in your minds are totally foreign to the residents living in our cities. And we are picking up the pieces of your failures to deliver on your promises. Under the Trump administration, groceries are less affordable. Housing is harder to build. Cures for cancer are farther away. And good news on our economy has been as hard to find as the Epstein list.
Well, I mean, at least, she brought that part up still. I said one small disagreement with what she was saying, and I think a lot of people have this thought. She said that, you guys have these beliefs in your head of what our cities are, and this is the reality. They don't believe the shit that they're selling. They're selling it to other people. They're selling it to fellow racists. They're selling to rabid people who don't think. They're selling to people that they made sure are undereducated on the things that we're seeing in front of us, because there's this loyalty thing that there's the first and foremost in this fascist regime's mind. That's how they operate. So when they're pushing all this nonsense, they know it's nonsense. They just don't want enough people to realize that they know it's nonsense. Let's not carry that water for them anymore. The image that you have in our heads is not really what it is. They don't have that image in their heads. They've admitted, dude, Kash Patel was at their DC takeover press conference and said, yeah, crime is way down. Caroline Levitt admitted crime is way down, but we're going after minorities. We're going after the unhoused. We're going after brown immigrants because that's who America hates. If you keep thinking about it, no matter what the point is, it all goes back to our original nature, the roots of this country, the stuff that it was too taboo to say. The folks that founded this country believed in this type of stuff. They said it out loud, but we covered it up. It's why Donald Trump had that stupid ass tweet the other day where he's talking, yesterday even, where he's talking about the Smithsonian and how they're talking about how bad slavery was. Again, the lies will just flow out. Watch. Donald Trump was telling everybody what the response is in Washington, D.C., when we really know what the response is in Washington, D.C.
We have a thing going on right now in D.C. We went from the most unsafe place anywhere to a place that now friends are calling me up, Democrats are calling me up, and they're saying, sir, I want to thank you. My wife and I went out to dinner last night for the first time in 4 years, and Washington, D.C. is safe, and you did that in 4 days. I'll tell you it's safe. I had another friend of mine, he has a son who's a great golfer, he's on tour, and he came in fourth yesterday in the big tournament where Scotty Scheffler made the great shot, and he said his son is going to dinner in Washington, D.C. tonight. I said, would you have allowed that to happen a year ago? He said, no way, no way. He said, what you've done is incredible. And I think the people realize it. But the press says, he's a dictator, he's trying to take over. No, all I want is security for our people. But people that haven't gone out to dinner in Washington, D.C. in 2 years are going out to dinner. And the restaurants the last 2 days were busier than they've been in a long time.
How much is a long time? Oh, I'm sorry. We just did that yesterday. There's these facts behind that lie that actually the restaurants have seen a dramatic drop, 31% in people going out. It's almost like the criminal behavior on the streets that's keeping people inside is coming from his military state that he's unleashed on that city. But he just says the opposite, just like how gas prices are 97 cents. Weird. But the big tell you can always see when this guy talks, but those Democrats that are calling him up and telling him, sir, they said, sir, what Democrat is calling his sorry ass up and saying, sir, thank you. I want to thank you for unleashing the army on the streets of Washington, D.C. And one last piece of that huge lie that he was telling. There was some pro golfer that placed fourth and he was going to go out to dinner in Washington, D.C. to celebrate. And he talked to his dad, and his dad said, would you have allowed it? Is this a grown-ass man? This guy just makes shit up as he's talking. Were you going to let your 27-year-old son, are you going to allow him to go out even though you're nowhere near him? Oh, man, he hasn't been out in 2 years. Bro, I thought it was 4 years. You said that at first. God, he's not even good at the lies. He's not even good at it. He's so bad at it that, you're not supposed to believe real life images that you saw of what happened in Columbia Heights, which is this neighborhood in Washington, D.C., as everyone is running up and thanking him. As Pam Bondi said the other day, we got people whispering to our agents, thank you, oh my God, thank you, oh my God, because, these criminal residents are going to kill me, but thank you for putting that gun in my face. This is what they're actually saying to those agents. It's the kind of energy that we've seen in other countries. It's the kind of things when we see people flood the streets and we go, man, those folks have had it. We don't know what it is that they've been through, but we do understand that they haven't been mentally suppressed the way that we have here. It's taken us this long. Just this one community, and I hope it spreads to the whole city. Just this one community to step outside. I didn't see anybody armed. I'm not sure if they had something concealed, but everyone had cell phones out and we're in unison walking these bastards down. When they're the ones with all these guns and threatening people, jumping out, cussing at folks, and sticking guns in their faces because it's all a bunch of threats. So, we can start fighting. And as we heard, again, one of those guys that's the author of Project 2025 said they're looking for this second American revolution that they said is supposed to remain bloodless as long as people like this let it happen.
We are in the process of the second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
If they're bringing up the blood, I think if anyone else starts bringing up the blood, they're going to start saying, how dare you un-Americans start talking about bloodshed in this country as they're literally killing people. Yes, people have died over this, and people will continue to die over it. Even if you sit back and cross your arms and sit and go, I'm not going to do anything except for hope that you guys stop this. That's not what fascists want. They don't want you to fight back. I think it's about time we fight back. Instead, they keep pushing propaganda like Caroline Levitt does. I want to show you guys what she said about the communities that they're running into.
I was wondering if you could clarify something President Trump said. He mentioned getting rid of the slums where criminals live. Was he talking about tents or permanent residential buildings?
First, when it comes to what you said and the president said, the slums of Washington, D.C., he's referring to the most dangerous communities, neighborhoods, and streets in this city where, unfortunately, violence has ravaged these communities and taken the lives of, again, far too many law-abiding D.C. residents. We know on July 5th of this year, just more than a month ago, a 3-year-old beautiful young girl was shot and killed in her car with her family in one of these communities, which is why there has been a surge, despite what many of you have been falsely reporting. And I believe it was the Washington Post who put out a map claiming it to be fact-based when it was just based on, I don't know, accounts that they've heard on the street, not actual statistics and data. So we went and reconfigured the numbers. And as I said, nearly half of all the non-illegal alien-related arrests have occurred in wards 7 and 8 in the District of Columbia, where we know, excuse me, there's the highest rate of crime. So we'll continue to do that.
The lies kind of got caught in her throat as they came out. But what they want you to know is those slums in wards 7 and 8 that happen to be minority and black majority communities. Those slums need to be cleared out. It's a weird thing. Is the reasons why Benny Johnson was also invited to a press conference last week to then ask about all the violence that he experienced when he lived in Washington, D.C., and how we have to bulldoze those communities. Which communities? He didn't really want to say, but she specifically pointed them out there because that's where all the crime is. And F her thoughts and mindsets about how a 3-year-old beautiful girl got killed that they never gave a damn about. Because every day, beautiful 3-year-old, 5-year-olds, 1-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, minority kids get killed by these type of police states rolling through their neighborhoods. There's been plenty of instances of we've seen the profiling that happens in communities, the busting in people's doors. And in fact, the thing that triggered the whole Black Lives Matter movement that actually included more Americans than just black folks this time in the streets in 2020 was them finally seeing the way that our police have treated disproportionately so many black folks, killing those same beautiful 3-year-old girls that they never gave a damn about. That movement that they said was racist. But now she gives a damn about those kids. No, she doesn't. She thinks she can use their trauma to continue to push this racist regime's mindset and their military state on everybody else. But when people get into the streets that aren't the ones that they've told you are all the criminals, they have to do something different because it looks really bad to go to start shooting at white folks it doesn't look that good. I'm gonna let Richard Fowler give the best answer in response to that whole mindset of the wards 7 and 8 in Washington, D.C., because he's a resident and he knows what he's talking about. This same thought process that we've ignored the folks that have lived in this country and have experienced the things that this country has pushed on us, as we've written it off as all you black people say the same thing. Is there an email group or something? Or is it the shared experience that we've seen in this country? I'm going to let Richard Fowler go for it. He's a friend of the show. Love this guy.
It's not nearly as bad as in Ward 7 and Ward 8, where it's the absolute worst. And so, you know, these Democrats and the media are against anything Trump tries to do.
Look, I live in Ward 8. Okay, I am a Ward 8 resident in the city, and there was a time at that.
Explain to people.
Yeah, Ward 8 is a neighborhood that, if you know, based on all the statistics, is a quote unquote a high crime zip code. But let me be very clear. There was a time post-pandemic where we saw an increase in crime. And what we also saw was we saw both here in the District of Columbia, and I've also covered this story extensively in Forbes magazine. What we've also seen in D.C., in Baltimore, in Chicago, in Detroit, is we've seen local leadership with local community groups actually tackle this issue. They've invested in community, invested in rec centers, they've invested in smart local strategies, and they're actually seeing results. Our own affiliate here in Washington, D.C. seen a 16% reduction in violent crime in Ward 8, in Ward 7, and other parts of the city. The idea that we're going to militarize and put troops on the ground and that's going to so-called wave a magic wand and solve D.C.'s crime crisis, which we don't have, by the way, or solve Baltimore's crime crisis, that's a misnomer, because what we've seen in this crime reduction, Howie, is actually this crime reduction is happening as police forces are at their smallest that we've seen them in decades.
Well, since you brought it up, and Trump mentioned those other cities as well, do you see a racial aspect here? Because these cities tend to be run by Democratic mayors or have sizable black populations.
Well, look, I think, you know, where there's smoke, there is fire. And I think it's very interesting that people are talking about Ward 7 and 8, but they rarely actually talk to Ward 7 or 8 or Baltimore or Chicago residents who are living in these neighborhoods. And what we will tell you is it's not that we want more law enforcement, we want tough on crime policies. What we'll tell you is we want smart on safety policies. We all believe in public safety, and public safety is a value. But public safety means schools that work, hospitals that work, grocery stores that work, and communities where there are jobs. When that happens, people are less likely to commit crimes. The reason why there's no crimes in the Georgetown neighborhood and there might be more crime in Ward 8 is because there's jobs in Georgetown. There's schools that work in Georgetown. And so what we've got to do as a nation is say this is the problem instead of just putting troops on the ground to solve it.
It's just some truth that Richard Fowler is spitting right there. Jobs, opportunities, and schooling. It's weird how when you strip communities of all those things, which we've seen, the systematic racism that's been pushed through this country, as any opportunities were growing for those minorities that they brought over here, their ancestors' mind, brought over here on ships, when they want to make sure they keep them down so they can continue to exploit them, when those things start changing, there's systematic racism that comes in and starts taking them away or destroys their communities. You know, there's times when it comes from the system of our policing, as they talk about focusing just on certain people, or it gets as blatant as things like the Tulsa riots, where they came in and killed folks because we had a thriving community, and that wasn't the only one. It's the only one that we're allowed to kind of sometimes talk about. It happened multiple times. So please, let's stop talking about how, as Caroline Levitt wants to point out there, crime just comes because of who these people are. Because their skin is darker than yours, they're more susceptible to criminal behavior. Or is it that you strip their communities and over-police them and beat on them and attack them and terrorize them? And then what humans do is they respond.